I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be my March perfume tray. I'm going to be choosing 10 fragrances from my collection for me to focus on in March, but I'm also just going to recap how February was for me and which fragrances I really was reaching for the most. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews and also fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing, and please also like this video if you do like this kind of content. So February, how was it for you? Well, for me, it was really busy. I am on a teaching course at the moment and that is just taking over my life. I've also got loads of experiments on. If you don't know, I'm a scientist. And I have to say, the variety in my perfume choices in February as a result of those things was not too great. I basically stuck mostly to my tray. There were a few occasions when I reached for stuff off my tray. So from the fragrances that were on my February tray, the two that I ended up reaching for the most often, I think both of these I wore 4 times each in February, were Balenciaga Paris, which is a fragrance I absolutely love. It's got violet and violet leaf, and it's just got this kind of, it's the most unique take on violet that I've smelled. It's kind of a green violet, but without being too green. I just really love this one. So the other one that I ended up wearing 4 times was Kayali's Lovefest Burning Cherry, and this fragrance was actually my only complimented fragrance of the entirety of February. I don't tend to get many compliments. I'm British, people don't compliment people in Britain. So this fragrance, it was just someone at work that I know, and she walked into the lab and she said, "Oh, that smells pretty, what is it?" I'm not sure this is a significant result in the scientific analysis of compliments, but yeah, that was my one compliment this month on Lovefest Burning Cherry. So for March, because it's the UK and I'm still anticipating rain and cold weather, I'm going to kind of do a bit of a mix, but I'm really going to be hedging my bets towards warmth. And I think this is a risky strategy, but I'm really probably going for a summer and spring kind of fragrance choice, I think. I think I'm being way too optimistic here. But I just really am willing on spring. It's been so cold here and I'm kind of fed up with winter now. So this is kind of a very springy summer video. It's going to be full of florals and fruits and just really uplifting and happy fragrances. So let's choose 10 for March. So first up, I'm going to choose, unusually for me, some peach fragrances. Peach is a note that I've really struggled with in the past, and actually I found a few peach fragrances that I really seem to enjoy. So I'm going to try and keep that momentum going and try some other new to my collection peach fragrances. So the first one is an old one in my collection, but it's a good one. It's probably one of the most unique fragrances in my collection. I don't think I've ever smelled anything like this. It's something that really does stand out as a really unusual gourmand fragrance. So this one is called Pitching Woo, and it's by a little brand from New Zealand called One Way Bridge. So pitching woo literally means sort of setting your stall against someone, declaring your love, you know, basically wooing them. And this one, it's like you're on a date in a 1950s diner and someone's brought you a really interesting ice cream sundae. So this ice cream sundae is a peach ice cream sundae, and you've got a bit of a float in this ice cream sundae as well. So some fizz there. But also it's sweet, it's got toffee, it's also got vanilla, and it's also a little bit sugary in the dry down. But the opening of the fragrance has some interest because it's almost a little bit minty, and that's really what gives you the coolness, the cool idea of the ice cream really. And it's just such an inventive use of herbal notes here. It's not actually mint, I don't think, because Elise, the perfumer, is from New Zealand, and I think she uses local herbs. So it's probably something that isn't mint, but that's how it comes off to me, as something maybe between mint and nettles. I think the best way I describe it is if you were eating a mint leaf, but the taste of the mint leaf before you've chewed it. So that kind of texture in your mouth and that kind of cool feel, but without any kind of bite to it. I really like this fragrance and it's really strong, really long lasting. Elise actually brought this one back because it was so popular and it sold out. And I can totally see why. I got this fragrance for my birthday last year from John at Scented Snowdrops, who's a massive fan of this brand, and I can totally see why. So that's Pitching Woo by One Way Bridge. So the next peach fragrance is one of the ones that I want to get to know a little bit better, and this one is from Kayali. It's Déjà Vu White Flower, and I picked this up weirdly when I was buying some cereal. It appeared to be on some kind of discount website, and I just was intrigued as to why this was less than half price on a discount website. I'm assuming it's being discontinued, but I just thought I'd pick it up and just experience it because I haven't really got to know this one. So this one is a really sort of heady white floral fragrance. On me, the jasmine dominates heavily over the tuberose, but really it's quite a petally feeling jasmine. It's quite a thick and creamy feeling jasmine almost. And there's also a really nice warm ambery peach. And ambery peaches are something that I really struggled with when I first started out on YouTube. I remember really disliking particularly powdery ambery peaches. I think this fragrance would have been a dislike a few years back, but I'm actually really embracing the peach here and I've been really enjoying this fragrance. I really like that I've bought the 10ml because I can take it with me in my handbag. I've worn it a few times already and I get about 4 to 5 hours of longevity out of this one. It's not the longest lasting Kayali fragrance. It also has that trademark Kayali vanilla in the dry down as well. You know, they like to use that kind of very syrupy vanilla, don't they? Weirdly, this fragrance actually reminds me a little bit of Azzaro Wanted Girl by Night. I'm not quite sure exactly why I'm getting that comparison because on paper the notes are extremely different, but they both have this kind of syrupy, fruity feel to them and also just a very kind of gourmand edge to them. But I just really want to get to know this one a little bit better and to experience it during March. So that's Déjà Vu White Flower 57 by Kayali. So the third peach fragrance that I want to try out this month is Madurai. So Madurai is from Memo and I haven't really heard anybody talk about this one, so I didn't really know what to expect with this. I didn't specifically buy this. I got this free with another fragrance and I just got this little 5ml sample. So I'm just going to try this one out this month and see how it goes. I've worn it once so far and my initial impression of it is that it's a kind of tropical, fruity kind of fragrance. It's really quite strong as well. I was quite surprised because of what's in it. I thought it's going to be quite light and fleeting, but actually it's quite a strong and long-lasting fragrance. This one I think has some punch because I think there's some ambroxan here. It's not too much. Ambroxan can sometimes really bother me and it doesn't bother me so much in this fragrance. So this is really a very juicy peach fragrance which comes off, as I've said, as a tropical feel, but it also has a really heavy dose of jasmine. And the jasmine here is a little touch indolic. It's a little bit fresh as well. It's more of like a green jasmine or a jasmine sambac. It's more of like the slightly dirtier jasmine than it is the clean jasmine. This fragrance also feels quite solar to me. I think that's probably because of the florals, but also because of the fruity notes here. I think this one really, to me, makes me think of tropical sunsets. It's that kind of colour to me, this fragrance. And I just really want to get to know it a bit more. So this one is Madurai and it's by Memo. So next I'm going to pick some pretty dewy florals for spring and I'm going to really concentrate on fragrances that make me think of pastel colours. So I think pastels just are very spring, aren't they? And that's really what I want to evoke with my fragrance tray in March. So this fragrance is La Colle Noire by Dior. And this one I was influenced to buy by Lizzie at Rose & Jones. Lizzie has a huge collection of Dior, or she used to have really quite a big collection of Dior fragrances. And I feel like this is one of the few that are actually still left in her collection. And she gave me a sample of the newer formulation. I've actually got the older formulation. And I compared them a little bit and I feel like the newer formulation is slightly fruitier, slightly fresher than the old one, but they're pretty similar overall. So this fragrance is a peony and rose musk fragrance. It's very petally, it's very pink smelling, and the musk is not so powdery and it's not a sweet musk. It's quite a very classic style of perfumery, this. I really feel like this fragrance sort of channels the old Miss Dior flankers, the EDT fragrances, but I feel like this one has amazing longevity and is really quite punchy actually for something with peony. Peony is usually quite a quiet, reserved note, but I really feel like the peony just supports the rose and makes it feel much pinker in a way. This also does have an underlying fruitiness to it, but the fruitiness on me at least is very subtle and it's quite a dry red fruitiness. I just really like this one. It just makes me feel pretty and I find this one really suitable for work as well. So this is something that I will definitely reach for during March. So that's La Colle Noire by Dior. So this next fragrance is one that I mentioned in my What Were We Wearing video, because I think this fragrance came out 30 years ago, which is insane. So this one is Cerruti 1881. So this fragrance literally smells like the colour of the bottle. And this one feels, I think, pastel because it has a bit of an aquatic start. So it feels almost like, you know, you're looking through water or something like that when you smell this, because it's kind of fuzzy but in an ethereal way to me. So this is ethereal, I think, because it has chamomile and it has mimosa, and that combined with a really gentle pink rose just comes off as this kind of mixed floral feel really in this fragrance. It just has this kind of freshness but also a powderiness to it, and I think this fragrance really does take me back to the 90s. This fragrance always makes me think of chintz. I think that's probably because of the colour that it smells and those kind of chintzy 90s patterns that were very prominent at the time. Very long lasting on me, and it's something that is really affordable too. And I just think it's a great fragrance for not very much money. So that's Cerruti 1881. So the next fragrance is also a pastel feeling fragrance, but this is a blue feeling fragrance. This is like a turquoise blue pastel colour. This one is Alien Mirage. So this fragrance I find very hard to describe, but basically it's a mineralic, almost metallic feeling floral. And that makes it feel very otherworldly, and that's really where it fits in with the Alien line. I don't think there's jasmine listed in this fragrance, and I really feel like the other notes in this fragrance are what makes this distinctively an alien flanker. So this does feel solar. This does have like the amber and the cashmere in this. It's very distinctive, the cashmere particularly. And the amber feels very bright and light as well here, but also a little bit powdery. It's just got this kind of freshness running through it, and it does smell very aquatic without having to use notes like cologne or other things that I don't tend to get on with in fragrance. So this is really one of my favourite alien flankers, and I'm looking forward to wearing it in the slightly cooler weather, because normally I wear this one in the summer, but I just really want to try it out in the springtime and see how it fares. So that's Alien Mirage. So finally in March, I'm just going to choose a few fragrances for work. So I want things that are long lasting and things that I'm not going to have to top up during the day, because really I'm so busy at the moment that it just won't happen. So my first choice for work is going to be Coach EDP. So this fragrance is something that I only reach for in springtime, weirdly. So now is the time to put this on my tray. And this fragrance is a syrupy raspberry and rose suede musk fragrance. It really does dry down into a musky suede, and the ultimate dry down of this fragrance I really love. This fragrance always makes me think of when I was in my 20s and I had a very particular pink suede handbag. And the smell of that handbag and the fragrance that I used to wear at the time combined is basically the smell of this fragrance. I think now, looking back, this is probably a fragrance that I would have absolutely loved in my 20s, and I can totally see me having rocked this one at my earlier jobs in my life. So yeah, this is going to be my first choice for work, Coach EDP. So the next fragrance is one of those your skin but better fragrances, the kind of fragrance that you don't sense but other people around you give you compliments on, because it's sort of, you know, one of those, are you wearing a fragrance? Are you not wearing a fragrance? And that's the kind of fragrance that I want when I'm teaching sometimes, and I'm doing a lot of teaching at the moment. So this one's called Lunar Dust, and it's by Mabelle. So the thing I love about this is the fact that it really evokes what it's meant to be evoking. It really makes you think of moon dust. And moon dust to me would be slightly sparkly, it'd be silvery feeling, it'd be powdery, and this is all of that. The surprise here is the slight sweetness, and I think there must be some very, very gentle pear or something in the opening to give it just that slight fruity sweetness. It's really not a super sweet fragrance overall though, and I think the sweetness makes it much more friendly than it otherwise would have been. So the iris here is not heavy and makeup-y and old-fashioned. It's a very modern molecular take on iris, and that's what gives it that moon dust feel. But as it dries down, it becomes warmer and it becomes woodier, and that's a really lovely kind of enveloping, huggy feel that you get from other kind of fragrances in this genre like Glossier U. I think this fragrance is really what stopped me from repurchasing Glossier U, and I just find this one unique. So that's Lunar Dust by Mabelle. So this next fragrance is really an example of adulting Claire. This is Claire at work, and this choice is going to be Chanel's Coco Noir. So despite the name, despite the bottle, this is really the friendliest of the Coco line. This is the one that's the easiest. And I think this is also the freshest and the happiest. When I think about the Coco line, I think about Coco being the grrr one, and I think about Coco Mademoiselle being the mad, crazy one. This one is the polite, friendly person next door. This fragrance is really a powdery, sweet, resinous, smooth feeling rose patchouli, and it's just perfect for work because it's just so easygoing. So that's Coco Noir by Chanel. So my final choice for March is one that I really have a bit of a psychological block with, and that block is that it's a special occasion fragrance. And that's ridiculous. You know, there shouldn't be any kind of bar on my life about when I can and when I can't wear fragrances. Every day is a special occasion. It's ridiculous to hoard things for, you know, better times, basically. So this one is Merchant of Venice's Imperial Emerald. And this is really a spicy lily, kind of white floral, yellow floral fragrance. There's lots of different florals in here, but really it's the lily that stands out the most. The tuberose, the ylang ylang, and also the orange blossom are also featuring here. But it's the lily that's the dominant thing, even in the dry down. So this is a spiced, resinous feeling floral musk in the far dry down. And it's just really smooth and very creamy feeling. And it's just one of the most elegant florals I've come across. And I think that's why I hoard it, because it makes me think of weddings and, yeah, like dressy events, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to break that mindset this month and just wear it and enjoy it. So that's Imperial Emerald by Merchant of Venice. So that's my final selection for March. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed it, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know what you've been reaching for during February. What's been your most worn fragrance during the month of February? And also, what are you going to be reaching for during March? Are you in a floral mood, a gourmand mood, or are you going to have a bit of a mix? I'd really be interested to find out what's on your tray right now. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.